Hi, my name is Sam, and today I will be outlining Kant's beliefs on regulative ideas and their use in natural science. So before we get into it, we should start with two sort of human limitations, which Kant previously discusses in the Critique of Pure Reason. So the first is that cognition must be traced back to intuition. There's this idea that thoughts or cognition without content or intuition is empty. And the second sort of limitation is that the use of concepts, either pure or empirical, must have a justification, or in other words, a deduction. Now, bearing this in mind, given this, how are we supposed to do science in the world? Right. So Kant has already previously discussed the categories of substance and causality, but this really only takes us so far in science. We need to account for testing our theories in the form of hypotheses and developing laws and principles which govern science and lay the groundwork for us to make further scientific discoveries. So now let's get into the regulative use of reason as Kant describes it. So I'm going to introduce this as a contrast to the constitutive use of reason. So first, the constitutive use of reason refers to using reason in order to establish objective truths about the world. This is the use of reason which underlies scientific inquiry, and it's where we seek to discover and explain the objective laws of nature. So now, on the other hand, the regulative use of reason refers to the use of reason in order to guide our thinking and action in even in cases where we cannot establish objective truths. So this is where Kant's idea of regulative ideals comes in. And so regulative ideals are concepts like the soul, God, and free will, which we cannot prove to exist objectively, but we must assume them to be true in order to make sense of our experience. And in this case, make progress in science, make scientific discovery. So now that we understand the idea of the regulative use of reason, we can look at how this reason creates unity in our empirical investigations, right? So reason allows us to be able to systematize our knowledge. And when reason is trying to deal with the unconditioned, with those things that are unconditioned, it can turn into regulative principles. So here are a few central regulative ideas. So the first is the soul as an unconditioned subject of thoughts. The second is the world whole as an unconditioned completeness of all of the objects and events within space and time. And the third is God as the unconditioned condition of the existence of everything in our world. And again, these are being made use of as regulative ideas, not constitutive ideas. Right. So now let's look at how these regulative ideas um, apply in in the world to into science. So we can assume that the soul is a sort of unity, and that the power of our mind is working for one unifying power. Next, we are trying to extend our knowledge of space and time as far as we physically can in order to encompass the world whole. And finally, um, even without being able to generate conclusive evidence for the existence of God, we should look for a purpose behind the unity within nature that God creates. And so then these regulative principles are helpful for us in science because because with them we can formulate consistent hypotheses as opposed to just formulating random hypotheses which are unconnected. And so with these hypotheses, if we disprove one of them, that's all right. We move on, we keep going. But when we're able to find consistency within hypotheses, we then search for an underlying cause to explain this consistency. And this is how we make scientific discovery from these regulative ideas. So this was an explanation of regulative ideals for Kant and their use in natural science. Thank you.